money doesn't rule the world. Money is not what makes people happy.
What they say is true. Money doesn't buy happiness. These people have millions in the bank, and yet they're still miserable. Why? What happened to them? Let's find out. Number 6. Andrew Jack Whitaker. This is Andrew Jackson Whitaker Jr., or as most people knew him, Jack. In 2002, Jack won the Powerball jackpot worth $315 million, which was the biggest solo ticket win in U.S. history at the time. But he was already rich before that. He owned a construction company and had over $17 million to his name. The man didn't exactly need a miracle, but he got one anyway, or so it seemed. At first, Jack did the stuff you hope a good rich person would do, gave millions to churches, started a charity, and even gifted a house and a car to the lady that sold him the winning ticket. He made a big show of generosity. He gave out money like it was candy, drove around tossing bills from his Lamborghini. But then it all started to fall apart. Jack started drinking more, gambling more, and spending a lot of time in strip clubs. Not judging, but this was the beginning of his downfall. In less than a year, someone broke into his car outside a strip club and stole $500,000 in cash. Yes, he had that in a suitcase just sitting in his car. When asked why he was carrying that much, he said, "Because I can." Then it got worse. His granddaughter's boyfriend died of an overdose in Jack's house. A few months later, Jack's granddaughter Brandy died too. She was just 17 at that time. Drugs were found in her system, but no one could figure out exactly how she died. Her death crushed him, but it was not the final blow. His daughter, who was Brandy's mom, died a few years later. There was no foul play, but still, that's 3 close family members gone in 5 years. Meanwhile, Jack was being sued left and right. One casino wanted $1.5 million from him in bounced checks. He said they actually owed him money. He also claimed someone emptied his bank accounts. Police couldn't prove it, but he insisted it happened. His house caught fire. He lost almost everything. His wife left. His health went downhill. And then Jack said the famous words, "I wish I had torn up that ticket." Number 5. Gillian Bayford. Next, we have the dramatic story of Gillian Bayford, who won £148 million in 2012. That's over $190 million US dollars. The amount did change her life, sure, just not in the way she hoped. She was a hospital worker from Suffolk, married with 2 kids and living a simple, quiet life. Then came the jackpot. Suddenly, she and her husband Adrian were millionaires. They bought a luxury mansion in Cambridgeshire, packed up their old life, and tried to start fresh. But it didn't last. Just 15 months after the big win, the marriage was over. They said the stress of the money broke them. Imagine having nearly $200 million and still feeling like your whole world is falling apart. That's what happened here. There were headlines, of course. Rumors that Gillian was having an affair with their gardener, but she denied it. But by then, the damage was done. She split from Adrian, moved back to Scotland with her kids, and tried to rebuild. And let's be honest, she had the money to do it. Even after splitting the winnings, she was still loaded. New house, new lifestyle. She even got involved in local charities and sponsored community projects. On the outside, it looked like she was thriving, but it was a different story in reality. In 2018, Gillian married Brian Deans, a man with a criminal record for fraud. There were red flags everywhere. They had a child during the pandemic, and Gillian really tried to make it work. But Brian, according to friends, treated her like a cash machine. He burned through millions on luxury trips, fancy cars, expensive watches, and VIP football packages. Basically, he lived the dream with her money. After 7 chaotic years, she threw him out. It doesn't end there. Another ex, Gavin Innes, accused her of being violent. She ended up in court, got convicted for breach of the peace, and walked out with a warning. Still rich, but now dragging around a messy public reputation and more emotional baggage. So yeah, Gillian has got millions in the bank, but is she happy? Far from it. Her love life is a disaster. She has been betrayed more than once, and her name gets dragged through the mud every time she tries to move on. Proof right here. You can buy mansions, but not peace. You can buy watches, but not loyalty. And you can win a fortune and still feel like you've lost everything. Well, Gillian and her husband could not make it work. This next couple were happy together, but still living a miserable life after winning the lottery. Number 4. John Cutie. John Cutie and 7 of his co-workers won the $319 million Mega Millions jackpot in 2011. At that time, it sounded like the start of a dream. John's personal share came out to $28.7 million. After taxes, He and his wife Linda walked away with $19 million, still rich beyond reason. You would think that kind of money could solve everything, right? Well, not quite. At first, John tried to do the right thing. He quit his job at New York State's Affordable Housing Agency and started looking for ways to give back. He and Linda asked their hometown mayor what the community really needed, and the answer surprised them. They needed a water park. And just like that, John donated $200,000 to make it happen. The park was named in honor of both of their parents, and they even returned for the grand opening 2 years later. That's really sweet. But here's the part people don't see. The moment John's name hit the news, the phone started ringing. Family, friends, distant cousins, people he hadn't spoken to in years, all came asking for something. And at first, he tried. He wanted to be generous, but the more he gave, the more people showed up. And when he said no, he was called selfish. Eventually, John had to pull back. He stopped doing interviews, stopped attending local events, and even moved down to Florida. He and Linda bought a new house to stay away from the constant bugging. Because the truth is, while he had money, he lost something else: peace of mind. Imagine waking up and wondering who actually cares about you and who's just here for a piece of the prize. That's what life became for John. Winning gave him freedom, but it also stole his peace. He went from working a normal job, blending into the world, to being that guy with millions everyone suddenly needed. Turns out, having millions doesn't protect you from guilt trips, fake friends, or emotional exhaustion. Number 3. Peter Lavery. Next, we have the story of a man named Peter Lavery who won roughly $20 million in the UK lottery. This happened back in 1996. Peter used to drive a Belfast city bus and earn £200 a week. But just in a span of a few days, he transformed into a person who was seen sipping cocktails in St. Lucia, flying first class, and partying with 22 mates in New York for St. Patrick's Day. Peter was 34 at the time, and like most people, he had a list of what he would do if he ever won. But once the money hit, he went full throttle. He bought a luxury house in Belfast's posh Golden Triangle, spent £500,000 on cars like Jaguars and Bentleys, and flew his family on the Concorde for a glam trip to New York City. And of course, he partied, with a bar in his house and a growing collection of over 300 Swarovski crystals. Lavery's lifestyle was envied by everyone around him, but the party had a dark side. Before his 40th birthday, Peter was told by his doctor that if he didn't stop drinking, he would not be around to enjoy any of it. He had type 2 diabetes and his health was getting worse. The late nights in Belfast, the endless drinks, it all caught up. Despite having millions in the bank, Peter Lavery's drinking only got worse. The luxury, the freedom, the endless holidays, everything masked the truth that he was miserable. He had everything money could buy, yet he was getting worse every day. His health was tanking, his sugar levels were out of control, and deep down, he knew he was losing himself. The booze was an escape, and ironically, the more money he had, the harder it became to stop. There were no limits and no reason to say no. But then he realized it was not the wealth or the doctors that were going to save him. It had to be him. It had to be his willpower, and that changed everything. Peter threw one last wild birthday bash, raised his final double whiskey, and said, "That's me off the drink." He has stuck to that ever since. And out of all the irony, the man who nearly drank himself into an early grave is now the face of Belfast's first whiskey distillery in 87 years, the Titanic Distillery. He built it inside the historic Titanic pump house and created 40 jobs. Not only that, Peter set up the Rita Charles Trust in honor of his late parents, who never got to see what he became, and gave away nearly £2 million to charity within 5 years. He even took 20 kids affected by the Troubles to Disney World, all expenses paid. Well, Peter Lavery proved how dangerous wealth can be when it fuels old habits. This next winner faced a different kind of misery. Number 2. Jane Park. At just 17 years old, Jane Park became the UK's youngest Euro Millions winner, walking away with a £1 million jackpot in 2013. It was around $1.22 million. At the time, she was earning £8 an hour as an admin temp and living in a small 2-bedroom council flat with her mother. Overnight, her life flipped upside down, and not always in the ways she'd hoped. While the win brought her fame and financial freedom, it also opened the door to struggles she never saw coming. Jane quickly became a tabloid fixture. She became famous for her Instagram posts, cosmetic surgeries, and controversial relationships. She dropped over £50,000 on enhancements, which included boob jobs, a Brazilian butt lift, veneers, liposuction, and Botox. But not all of it went smoothly. A botched procedure in Turkey nearly killed her, landing her in the hospital with suspected sepsis. Her tattoos became just as famous, especially the MAGA Love 2014 stamps that she had, and her unapologetic love for budget travel only increased the public's obsession with her. She was living a dream life on social media, sure, but in reality, she was feeling regret. Jane later admitted that she wished she had never won. Appearing on Dr. Phil, she opened up about stalkers, death threats, and never being able to tell if men were dating her or her bank account. She even launched a website offering £60,000 a year to anyone willing to be her boyfriend, but after 10,000 weird and strange applicants, she shut it down. Love, it turned out, was harder to buy than a Range Rover. Her love life remained rocky, and then came the most tragic chapter in 2024. Her ex-boyfriend, Mark Webley, who was a convicted gang member, was shot dead in an altercation outside a pub on New Year's Eve. Jane had just spoken to him the day before. They had a rocky relationship, but still, his death left her shattered. Through it all, Jane never tried to pretend she was someone else. She embraced her B&M bargain bin lifestyle and wore her budget Molly May crown with pride. Today, she is reportedly worth £3 million, but her story proves that money doesn't shield you from heartbreak, loneliness, or the weight of growing up too fast in the public eye. Just like Jane, this next lottery winner never had any peace despite winning millions. Number 1. Gloria Mackenzie. This is Gloria Mackenzie, who was 84 years old when she won the $590.5 million Powerball jackpot in 2013. At that time, she believed she was being blessed with a peaceful golden retirement. She opted for a $370.9 million lump sum after taxes. She entrusted half of it to her son Scott, who promised to manage the funds and take care of her. But what followed was betrayal and legal problems. At first, she gave him the benefit of the doubt. He helped buy the ticket, so she split the winnings with him. Scott took control of her finances through power of attorney and brought in an obscure financial advisor with little high-value investment experience. Gloria thought her money was being safely invested. Instead, it was barely growing. It was bringing in returns of less than 0.1%, while her advisor reportedly earned millions in fees. As time passed, Gloria realized her wealth was not improving her life. She was not living large in a mansion or enjoying luxury. In fact, she was living modestly in a duplex while her son had all the properties and control. By 2018, she filed a lawsuit against Scott, accusing him of mismanaging over $10 million and failing in his duty as her fiduciary. Court documents revealed just how bad things were. Scott and the advisor were allegedly enriching themselves while Gloria's fortune quietly shrank. She didn't get to enjoy the lavish life many would assume comes with such money. What she was living with was confusion and a deep sense of regret. Gloria's final years were clouded with disappointment and heartbreak. The joy of her sudden wealth faded fast. She did not get to go on vacations or enjoy her twilight years. She was tied up in court, trying to reclaim her security, her dignity, and control over what was hers. And the most painful part is that she passed away in 2021 at age 92 before any resolution could be reached. The lawsuit never concluded, the money never returned, and the relationship with her son was left in bitter pieces. While these winners had regrets tied to their millions, not everyone ends up that way. Some lottery winners actually got their dream lives. If you want to see the lucky few who made it work, watch the next video to find out where the biggest lottery winners are now and how they're spending their millions.